The anticipation for the upcoming Major League Baseball season is starting to build. And for Toronto Blue Jays fans, every new update during spring training carries a little more weight. With opening day getting closer and closer, every development around the roster becomes a major talking point. And recently, one piece of news involving Jose Berrios quickly grabbed the attention of everyone following the team. At first, the expectation surrounding Berrios was actually a positive one. The veteran pitcher was expected to represent Puerto Rico in the World Baseball Classic, something that many fans were excited to see. Playing in an international tournament like that often brings out a different level of intensity in players, and it can be a moment of pride for both the athlete and the country they represent. But suddenly, that storyline changed. Reports confirmed that Jose Berrios would not be participating in the tournament after all, and the reason behind that decision immediately sparked discussion. During the routine insurance testing required for players competing in international events, Berrios underwent an MRI scan. The results revealed inflammation in his right elbow, the same arm he uses to pitch. For a pitcher, any mention of elbow inflammation instantly raises concern. It does not matter if the issue appears minor at first glance. When the throwing arm is involved, teams and fans alike start paying very close attention. And in this case, the concern was even stronger because Berrios dealt with elbow inflammation late in the previous season as well. Naturally, that led many people to wonder whether this was a continuation of the same issue. The Blue Jays organization moved quickly to clarify the situation. According to manager John Schneider, the inflammation detected in the MRI is different from the one that appeared last season. The most important detail in all of this is that there is no structural damage to the ligaments in the elbow. That piece of information immediately brought some relief. Structural damage is often what leads to the most serious outcomes for pitchers. Without that kind of damage, the situation becomes much more manageable. Even so, the decision was made to keep Berrios out of the World Baseball Classic and prioritize caution during spring training. From the team's perspective, the timing simply does not justify taking risks. The regular season is the real priority, and protecting the health of a starting pitcher is far more important than having him participate in an international tournament right now. Even if the player feels capable of competing, the organization has to think about the bigger picture. Interestingly enough, Berrios himself mentioned that physically he feels good. In his own words, the way his arm feels does not match what the MRI showed. That kind of situation can sometimes happen in professional sports. An athlete may feel perfectly fine while imaging tests reveal something that needs attention. Because of that discrepancy, the Blue Jays are choosing to move carefully. Instead of pushing Berrios into game situations immediately, the plan is for him to continue light throwing sessions while the medical staff keeps evaluating the inflammation. He will miss a scheduled start during spring training, but that decision is part of making sure the issue does not develop into something more serious. And that is where the broader conversation begins. Every time a pitcher deals with elbow inflammation, even if it seems small, fans cannot help but think about the worst possible scenarios. Baseball history has shown time and time again how fragile a pitcher's arm can be. A minor problem today can sometimes become a much bigger one if it is not handled correctly. That is why the Blue Jays appear determined to avoid rushing anything. The organization spent the offseason strengthening its pitching depth precisely because situations like this can happen at any time. Over the course of a 162-game season, injuries are almost inevitable. Having multiple options ready to step in is essential for any team that hopes to remain competitive. Still, even with that depth, losing time from a key pitcher is never ideal. Berrios remains an important piece of the rotation, and when he is performing well, he can carry a heavy workload. In previous seasons, he proved capable of pitching deep into games and providing stability for the staff. At the same time, there have been questions about what his role might look like this season. The Blue Jays have several arms competing for spots in the rotation, and spring training has already created some interesting storylines. Some pitchers are coming off strong seasons, while others are looking to re-establish themselves after difficult stretches. Because of that, the health of every member of the rotation becomes even more significant. If one pitcher needs extra time to recover, it places additional responsibility on the rest of the group. That does not necessarily create panic, but it certainly raises the level of attention surrounding the situation. Another layer that makes the Berrios situation intriguing is the long-term aspect of his contract. At the end of this season, he has an opt-out clause that could influence his future with the organization. Depending on how his performance unfolds during the year, that clause might become a major talking point. If he were to have an outstanding season, he could potentially explore other opportunities around the league. On the other hand, if the year does not go as planned, remaining in Toronto might be the most likely scenario. Situations like that often add extra motivation for players who want to prove their value. But before any of those conversations can happen, the immediate focus remains on his health. The Blue Jays want to ensure that Jose Berrios enters the regular season feeling strong and fully prepared. With opening day approaching, the last thing the team wants is for a manageable situation during spring training to turn into a long-term problem once the games start to matter. Even with the reassurance from the organization that the situation is not considered serious, the conversation around Jose Berrios continues to spark debate among fans and analysts. The reason is simple. When a pitcher deals with recurring discomfort in the same elbow, even if the team insists it is a different type of inflammation, people naturally start connecting the dots. Pitching is one of the most physically demanding actions in sports, and the elbow absorbs an enormous amount of stress with every single throw. That is why the Blue Jays appear determined to slow things down, even if the pitcher himself feels capable of pushing forward. Berrios has said that his arm feels good and that he does not feel the same limitations he experienced previously. However, imaging tests are not something teams ignore, especially during spring training. The purpose of this period is preparation, not urgency. There is no need to force a player back on a mound if there is even the slightest chance that rest could prevent a bigger issue. At this stage, the plan seems straightforward. Berrios will continue playing catch and maintaining his throwing routine while the medical staff monitors the inflammation. The idea is to allow the elbow to calm down while still keeping the arm active enough so that he does not lose too much of his rhythm heading into the season. It is a delicate balance that many teams face with pitchers during spring training. But even with that cautious approach, this situation does highlight something bigger about the Blue Jays rotation. While the team does have depth on paper, there are still several question marks surrounding different pitchers. Some are returning from injuries. Others are adjusting to new roles. And a few are simply trying to prove that they can deliver consistency over the course of an entire season. When you start stacking those uncertainties together, every piece of stability becomes incredibly valuable. That is where Berrios normally fits into the picture. Throughout much of his career, he has been known for taking the ball regularly and providing innings for his team. Durability is one of the most important traits for a starting pitcher, especially in a long Major League Baseball season. At the same time, the Blue Jays have clearly prepared themselves for moments like this. Over the past year, the front office has emphasized building a rotation that can survive setbacks. It is almost impossible for a team to get through an entire season without dealing with pitching injuries. Because of that reality, organizations try to build layers of depth that can step in when necessary. Some younger arms within the system have already begun to draw attention during spring training. These players understand that opportunities in the major leagues can appear quickly and unexpectedly. If a veteran pitcher needs extra time to recover, someone else may suddenly find themselves pitching meaningful innings much earlier than anticipated. That dynamic is part of what makes spring training such an interesting time of year. It is not only about preparing the established stars for the upcoming season. It is also about evaluating emerging talent and determining who might be ready to contribute if a situation demands it. For many young players, these weeks are their first real chance to show what they can do against higher levels of competition. Still, the focus inevitably returns to the core players expected to lead the team. Berrios falls into that category, even after a season that included some ups and downs. The Blue Jays know that if he performs near the top of his abilities, he can provide significant value to the rotation. His experience alone carries weight, particularly in games where the pressure begins to rise. That is another reason the organization is likely being extremely careful with this situation. Pitchers often want to compete through minor discomfort, especially veterans who have spent years pushing their bodies to the limit. But teams sometimes have to protect players from themselves, choosing long-term health over short-term availability. For now, the expectation is that Berrios will simply miss some early spring action while continuing to build strength gradually. The absence from the World Baseball Classic removes one potential source of strain on the elbow, allowing him to focus entirely on preparing for the Major League season. It may not be the outcome fans originally hoped for, but it could ultimately prove beneficial if it ensures he is fully ready when the regular schedule begins. Meanwhile, the rest of the rotation continues to take shape. Several pitchers are using spring training to solidify their roles, while others are competing for the final spots. The performances during these games may not count in the standings, but they still carry significance for the players involved. For a team with postseason aspirations, every decision about the pitching staff matters. The Blue Jays understand that a strong rotation can be the foundation of a successful season. If the starting pitchers are able to provide consistent innings, it reduces pressure on the bullpen and keeps the entire team in a better position to win games. That is why situations like the one involving Jose Berrios attract so much attention. Even if the injury is minor, it reminds everyone just how fragile the balance of a pitching staff can be. One unexpected development can shift responsibilities across the roster and force adjustments earlier than planned. For the moment, the tone coming from inside the organization remains calm. Coaches and medical staff continue to emphasize that the inflammation is manageable and that Berrios is progressing in the right direction. The key will be patience. Spring training still has time left, and the team would much rather take an extra few days now than risk losing a pitcher for a much longer stretch later. As the countdown to opening day continues, fans will keep watching every update closely. Each bullpen session, each throwing workout, and each report from the coaching staff will provide another clue about how the situation is evolving. And while the uncertainty may create some anxiety, it also reinforces one of the realities of baseball, that every season begins with questions, and the answers only start to appear once the games truly begin. In the case of the Blue Jays, the hope is that this moment will eventually fade into the background as Berrios resumes his normal routine. If the inflammation subsides and he returns to the mound without lingering discomfort, the entire episode could quickly become just another minor spring training storyline. But until that happens, every update will continue to draw attention from fans eager to see their rotation fully intact. For now, the focus remains on patience, evaluation, and preparation for the season ahead. The Blue Jays still believe they have the talent necessary to compete at a high level, and maintaining the health of their pitching staff will play a massive role in determining how far they can go. As spring training moves closer to its final days, the hope inside the organization is that the coming weeks will bring clarity, stability, and the return of one of their key arms to full strength. But before we move forward, don't forget to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest news about the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the news, so drop a comment below. Whispers around the training complex of the Los Angeles Dodgers have started to grow louder. What began as a quiet storyline during workouts has quickly turned into one of the most intriguing rumors circulating among reporters and scouts. A player who arrived without much fanfare is suddenly forcing the organization to take a closer look and possibly rethink its roster plans. According to people around the club, the unexpected standout has shown a level of energy and consistency that few anticipated. Coaches have reportedly praised not only his physical condition, but also his competitive edge, noting that every opportunity he gets on the field seems to amplify the conversation about whether he deserves a place on the major league roster. Inside the clubhouse, the tone is one of cautious excitement. Veterans are said to have noticed the player's rapid progress, while younger teammates view his rise as proof that strong performances can still change the narrative in a matter of days. One team observer described the situation as the kind of story that forces tough decisions, especially for a franchise known for its deep and talented lineup. What makes the speculation even more interesting is how quickly momentum has built. In just a short period of time, the player has reportedly moved from being considered depth to becoming a legitimate option for a roster spot. While the organization has not confirmed anything publicly, the growing buzz suggests the front office may soon face pressure to reward the performance. For a team with championship expectations like the Dodgers, surprises rarely go unnoticed. Every roster position is valuable, and competition is intense. Yet moments like this, when an overlooked player suddenly emerges, often create the most compelling stories of a season. Whether the rumor becomes reality remains to be seen. But one thing is clear. Inside the Dodgers camp, a once quiet name is now impossible to ignore, and the debate about his place on the team seems to be gaining strength with every passing day. That's all for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay up to date with exclusive news about the Los Angeles Dodgers, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We always appreciate your comments and feedback. See you in the next video.